It's weird that up until now on this channel, as long as it has run, I've never actually talked about Batman Mask of the Phantasm. You'd think this is something that I'd have cleared up a long time ago. On this channel, I've talked about a lot of Batman movies. I've talked about pretty much all of the live-action ones, including up to, I'll count The Flash, because Michael Keaton's in it quite a bit. But I've talked about some of the animated movies as well, but I'm surprisingly missing this one. Which is a shame because Mask of the Phantasm is often regarded as the best Batman movie ever made, and for good reason. It's a movie that fundamentally understands the tragedy of Batman's character as well as practically anything else that I could think of. And the animated series, many will say, is the best adaptation when it comes to that character because of how well it understood him. And over the years, it has been regarded as such. When you have those same people working on a movie that at the last minute admittedly was pushed to theaters and it didn't do too well, but eventually is watched over the years and considered as great as it is, and now 30 years later is considered still to be one of the best Batman movies, arguably the best one ever made, there is something really special about it. And so I just wanted to kind of go down memory lane a bit with this one because there are some interesting things about the animated series that come up, and it also is a little bittersweet to talk about now because last year, unfortunately, we lost Kevin Conroy. When you think about certain characters, certain things just come to mind instantly. Like, when you think of Darth Vader, you think James Earl Jones. You think of that voice immediately that goes off in your head. When you think Optimus Prime, you think Peter Cullen. The voice goes off in your head instantly. When you think of Batman, sure, there's a lot of actors over the years who have done a really, really great job, but the first voice that goes off in your head is Kevin Conroy's. He really defined Batman, and he was Batman to so many people. Growing up, he was the person you knew as that character, and for years, whether it be in the shows, movies, animated ones that is, video games, he defined him so well that it's hard to sort of hear anyone else after a while. Like, there is such a definitive quality to that, and he left something truly remarkable as a legacy as a result of that, and I will miss him. I will miss him going forward in anything that we get to see with Batman in animation form. It's just going to be a very hard loss, to sort of cope with. And similarly, there's another thing that happens when you think of voices when it comes to certain characters, and Mark Hamill as the Joker, well, that's another one. And it's just interesting when you talk about just what an impact these two have left when it comes to these characters. Mark Hamill as the Joker, when you actually put it into perspective, sounds crazy. Like, think about this for a minute. 1992, right? You have Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. He's done an amazing job over there. He's, one of the biggest heroes of all time. All right. Now, a few years later, someone comes along and says, hey, do you want to voice the Joker, one of the most notoriously, sadistic villains in the Batman, series of villains? Like, is that something you want to do? And he says, yeah. And he does it so well, and he has done it so well over the years. It genuinely is such a treat every single time you get to just see him go as the Joker and have his laugh go as it does. He's done such a great job with that character, and Mask of the Phantasm, I would say, was one of his finest hours. It was very early on, but he did such a great job over there, and he has what many consider to be the greatest Joker laugh in film history, which is towards the end of the movie. But going back a minute to how it defines the tragedy of Batman. Mask of the Phantasm is a movie where Batman is essentially being labeled as a killer because there's a figure called the Phantasm that is going after mob bosses and is basically trying to take everyone down in some very awful ways and just essentially murdering them. And while you could say, well, that's great, it's getting rid of the scum on the streets, at the same time, it's causing a lot of problems because That's just not how you do things, you know. There's a justice system. There are laws in place to make sure certain things happen. But as Batman begins to uncover what really is going on, this web of conspiracy theories and all the history around those families which has led to this moment, you start to sort of look into how Bruce has lost a lot along the way, and it includes one of those crime heads' daughters, Andrea Beaumont, and her coming back into his life right now. It brings back a lot of memories of what could have been. And so it turns into a very tragic romance tale of sorts, because it gives you this opportunity to see a life that Bruce could have, which doesn't involve being Batman. It also shows the tragedies that he went through to become Batman. It wasn't just losing his parents, that was the catalyst. But there are other things that eventually just made it worse and worse, and eventually to a point where he became this figure. And I love that scene where he first becomes Batman, because you see, he puts on the mask, he turns around, Alfred sees him, and he's scared. There is that vision to him, and it's that fear that Batman strikes in the hearts of criminals and in hearts of people as whenever he approaches. And the fact that he's become that, there is something to that which is just genuinely, like, you know, it is upsetting to see that play out. And eventually the connection that he has with Andrea, it's sweet, and you can sort of see a future over there, but the movie is consistently there to remind you that it's probably not going to work out. And it really isn't, because eventually, I'm assuming most people have seen this movie, finding out that she's the Phantasm is pretty much the final nail in that. There's no way that she's trying to get out of that cycle of like violence and vengeance that she's gone down because of what she's witnessed growing up in the mob. So what she's grown up seeing, like, what that's happened to her family. And so there is that aspect to it as well. It's such a complex movie, and the fact that it's, you know, it's a movie that is essentially a kids movie. Like, it's a pretty dark movie for a kids movie. Like, it really does go to some pretty extreme degrees. There's some pretty gruesome ways in which you see, like, characters, like, dead, which is pretty wild. Like, Sal Valestra, finding him just completely, like, laughed dead in this chair, and Joker just being like, hey, I got you! It's like, that's my terrible Joker impression. You know, that was pretty wild. That was very, very cool stuff. I actually just, I watched this movie for the first time. I'm trying to remember way back when. And back at the time, as a kid, I'm still not sure if I was fully grasping everything. And that happens. Like, the thing about watching movies as you grow older is that, you know, you kind of get a chance to revisit it again, and sort of, you know, certain things, they make more of an impact when you're older. And I think that the first time when I was a kid watching it, you're probably thinking, oh, Batman movie, it's going to be some action and stuff like that. There is action. There is a bunch of sequences in here that definitely are very high octane, you know, dazzlingly animated stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about that core story. It's about that character piece. And I think as I've gotten older, I've just appreciated the movie more and more. And now it is among my favorite comic book movies of all time. Is it my favorite Batman movie? Top 5, honestly, I would say, for sure. Yeah, I would say it's that. There's the Nolan movies, The Batman from Matt Reeves as well. Love that film. Batman Returns. This is honestly a competition on what's my favorite Batman movie. I guess it's The Dark Knight. But at the same time, I can't say that I don't, you know, like, I love this movie any lesser. I don't. This movie is incredible. It's a visually stunning piece of work, and it tells a story within that hour and 16-minute runtime that is so devastating, and it's so affecting, and it's one that people have revisited over and over again for exactly that reason, because of how well it captures that. Batman, at the end of the day, regardless of whatever adaptation he's in, there is a certain pain to that character. Like, it's fun to look at it and go, but he has these cool gadgets, and he's a billionaire, look at all these vehicles, like, you know, this awesome Batcycle, or the Batmobile, or the Batwing. It's like, yeah, but really take a minute here and just to understand, like, where all that's coming from. What has defined him. Over the years, with the voice work, with the writing, they captured that so well with this adaptation, especially in the animated series, and I love it to bits. It is regarded as one of the greatest shows of all time, and for good reason. And I'm excited for the fact that over the years, more people will get to potentially, be exposed to that, to the show, to this movie, to be shown just, this wonderfully done the adaptation of this character. That would be really, really incredible. Future generations, hopefully they get a chance to see it, and hopefully in a better way, because this is going to be released on 4K Ultra HD very, very soon. And so, you'll at least be able to see it in slightly better quality. Like I saw it on like Cartoon Network the first time years ago. So, that's the best way that I can say, like, we've come a long, long way since then. Also, one thing I just wanted to talk about, and that is Shirley Walker's score. It's incredible. There's this beautiful gothic, haunting, quality to it, and eventually when it crescendos with Batman's theme pretty often, it is genuinely beautiful stuff. Fantastic score. I love that one. It's one of my favorite Batman scores. Batman with music has always been pretty great. Like, I can't really think of a time when I listened to a Batman score of any movie or show or anything where I thought, nah, that's not quite doing it for me, I think musically, Batman has been captured really, really well pretty much every single time. And he continues to be. It could be in any kind of adaptation. It could even be in the Lego movie, Batman movie, that is. Like, even there, the theme that he has, the soundtrack is genuinely awesome. Like, it's great when, composers are able to bring out their best with this character. Like I said, this is not a review. This is mostly just, I wanted to talk about this movie, and it felt like the right time because of the 30th anniversary. I just want to talk about what an impact Kevin Conroy made. He was my Batman growing up. He remains like my Batman over the years. Like, he's just become that iconic piece of, pop culture history for me. Mark Hamill as the Joker will remain the same for as long as, years are to come. Just a really, nostalgic trip for me overall. So let me know what you guys think of Batman Mask of the Phantasm. What are your memories around it? Tell me about the first time you watched it over the years. What are your thoughts on it? Looking forward to hearing that as well. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more stuff very soon. I know there has been a bit of a dry spell on the channel recently. There's a reason. I will talk more about that very, very soon. I'm looking forward to that. As always, guys, if you do like this, please do subscribe. Make sure to hit that button. It means so much to me. And I hope to see you guys at the movies.